Hello, guys, and welcome to another episode of the Hurdle Podcast. We got Avery here with us today. We're talking NBA basketball, NBA playoffs. We have so much to break down since the last video that we did on Wembanyama and all that. If you haven't seen that, go check that out. We're actually going to plug everything at the beginning here, though, real quick. Go follow us on Instagram at Hurdle Podcast, HRDL Podcast over there. We're doing some reels over there, breaking down the NBA playoffs. So go check that out if you want just the audio version of the podcast. Go check us out. Type in Hurdle Sports on Spotify. Mine and Logan's name would pop up on that there. So go check us out if you just want the audio. But if you want the video, you're in the right spot. We're breaking down NBA playoffs. Avery, how you doing today?
Good. Finishing off this last quarter here and trying to finish strong. Watching as much basketball as I can.
Struggle is real.
Finals week's coming.
Yep. Hang on. But, we're breaking down NBA playoffs. We're going to start out East because that's a series that is still going somehow. Like it's miraculously stretched all the way to 7 games. We're going to break down, just give like an overview of the series real quick. So the Heat go up 3-0. They win by 6 in Boston. They win by like 8 in Boston when Boston was winning both those games. Then they win by like 30 in Miami.
Dominating game.
I think after game 2, it was kind of like, like Boston's still the better team, I think was kind of the narrative, but it's really tough to lose both at home because then you got to go get both on the road, basically. But then the way they got throttled in game 3 was like, man, it almost looked like they gave up. Like they looked dead in the water. I believe they lost by 26 in game 3. Something's just ridiculous. And yeah, it kind of just looked like dead fish. Like they were getting open looks, but everyone looked kind of slow, and there just wasn't any urgency in game 3, basically. And somehow the narrative turns between game 3 and game 4 because of 2 quotes, it being the same quote, but from Brown and Smart.
Don't
let us get
one.
Yep.
First time
Don't let us
everyone's
get
like,
one.
yeah, buddy, all right, go home.
Yeah.
Go home.
Mm-hmm.
Second time, and then once that third game, absurd.
Yeah. So I was the same way. Like before game 4, I'm like, I see it. Like you have to spark some momentum in the series somehow because things clearly are not going in your fashion. So it's like I understand you gotta get the team more locked in, get just some attention towards you because the Heat were just soaking up everything, and it really kickstarted this like whole thing. Like after game 4, like it was kind of like, oh, okay, like it's still 3-1. Like 4 teams have come back from 3-1. It's almost impossible to do 3-1 in itself. I think it's a 96% chance to win the series if you're up 3-1. So people were still kind of like, whatever. But then you kind of just start like mapping out the series. And it's like, well, Boston takes game 5 at home. They're a better road team than they are a home team in the playoffs. So they could realistically take game 6. And then all of a sudden, it's a winner take all game 7, which brings us all the way to what we have coming up in just under 20 hours or something like that. I believe 17 hours. Tip-offs at 5:30 again on TNT. We're recording this very, very early into the morning.
It was huge on
Man.
those first 2 games. Boston won so decidedly.
Mm-hmm.
If Boston, by the end of that game, Boston was up by 10. Miami crawled back into that game. If they would have won that third game right there with the double digit, like another easy decided win, I think you go into game 7 just automatically picking Boston. But I think the way Miami fought back into it and Jimmy heated up, that's a little more interesting of a game 7 now.
Okay, yeah. So let's break down. Do we want to break down game 6 or 7 first? I think we should probably do game 6 first. So 4 and 5, Boston wins back-to-back by about double-digit points. It looked honestly fairly easy. They just shot the ball so much better. They were shooting 40-some% from 3. I believe in game 4 they made 18 threes, which is just superb. And in the start of game 5, they had 7 threes in the first quarter, and Miami had 9 for the entirety of the game. So there you go there. And Miami only shot 23 threes in game 5. Very unorthodox for Miami. They just didn't really look comfortable. Jimmy's looked very uncomfortable, and we'll get into that going into game 7. But here's what's at stake for game 7. Teams are 0 and 150 when being down 3-0. So Boston is the first team, like the 2004 Red Sox, which has been brought up a bajillion times, like the 2004 Red Sox, to be the first team in their sport to come back down 3-0 in a playoff series. They have earned game 7 at home. Like, there's really no other way to put it. They've earned game 7 at home. I really think that's the right way to put this. But so it's really the biggest choke of all time on Miami if they lose game 7. But if they win game 7, it's probably the most insane defensive going to the finals I've ever seen in my entire life. Like, this is the most insane series I've ever watched from start to finish. Because after game 3, I was like, we have no chance in hell. But I'm saying we because I'm a Celtics fan. But just the game by game progression and how this is just snowballed for Boston into a game 7 at home is unbelievable.
Yeah, and for a playoff series this year that's been so interesting and having so many good games. Once we got to the conference chip, I mean, it was 3-0 on both sides. It looked like it was going to be so boring.
Mm-hmm.
And, I mean, no one expected this. It's just absurd. I don't even know what to say about it.
Yeah, I was like, well, maybe after it was 3, I was like, Boston could take 2 if they win game 4, they'd win game 5. Miami would probably win game 6. But then you break it down, it's just all this pressure is building up on Miami. However, though, going into game 7, Miami is the team, and we'll get into this in a little bit later because I want to do game 6 first, but game 7, Miami is the team where if you're going to say anyone can come back from this, it's Jimmy Butler and it's Spoelstra. They know how to rebound, and Spoelstra's done it so many times in the playoffs before. You think back to, I forget what year the finals was, but I believe it was 13 with the Ray Allen 3, and then Spo gets his team going for game 7. He just finds ways. So if it's going to be any team that somehow loses 3 straight after being up 3-0 and wins game 7 on the road, it's Miami. Because as a casual sports fan, if I, like Avery, if I came to you and say you didn't know anything about this series, I just told you the 2 seed was down 3-0 and now have forced a game 7 at home, and that was it. You didn't know anything about the teams. I'm assuming your natural reaction would be, well, the 2 seed's going to win game 7 at home, and it'd kind of just be like a no-brainer.
Yeah.
But because it's Spoelstra and Butler on the other side, there's always these second thoughts with how it's going. I think you brought up a great point too earlier with how Boston closed out game 6. And Miami spurted this run. Like, no lead feels comfortable with Boston, ever. Like, unless they're playing the Sixers. Like,
They just find
in
ways to
game
go
7.
on run.
Mm-hmm.
They'll just close the gap just like that.
Yeah, and it's like, okay, like, I believe Boston was up 10 with 4 minutes left. And then in the blink of an eye, it's 4 with 2 minutes left. And it's like, whoa, like, why do I feel terrible about my team when we're up 4 with 2 minutes left and we have the ball? Like, why does this feel like an uncomfortable situation, especially with a team that has played so many game 7s together? Like Milwaukee and Miami last year. They played 2 game 7s there before they even hit the finals. It's happening again this year if they make the finals with the same freaking Miami team. So there's so many questions to break down for game 7, but we're going to break down game 6 first. What a tremendous game. It's the most entertained, stressed, confused I've been maybe ever watching a single NBA playoff game.
I agree. Well, I got a question. What do you think about who took the last shot this game? Not that last shot, but who got it off that inbound? Marcus Smart taking that last shot again.
Well, I think the play was for Tatum. The play was clearly for Tatum to get it coming off the elevator from Smart. And then there was a secondary action with Smart and Brown, where it looked like Brown was supposed to curl around Smart, but the play was too long and Smart broke it off. So Miami, when you look at it, Miami did everything right in that play. Spoelstra said it in the post game. He's absolutely correct. They did everything they possibly could because they took away Tatum, they took away Brown. They got the guy who they want shooting the ball in Marcus Smart, who's honestly, which is kind of weird to say because he was the only one hitting threes this entire game. I think he had 4 threes, and Derek White had 2, and that was 6 of our 7 threes. Which Boston shot the worst percentage from 3 this year that they have the entire season. They shot 7 for 35. So, and
They
still
still
won.
win.
And
Yeah.
still won. So, but also you could look at Miami and say, well, Bam and Butler shot like the same thing.
Yeah, when you got
And only
Caleb
lost by
Vincent,
1.
Caleb Martin and Gabe Vincent carrying you.
Mm-hmm.
It's an undrafted squad.
Yeah, it's the same. But going back to your thing, I think Smart just had to break off the play. And he was hitting threes. So I was like, he's the high end. And I thought it was in. I'm not going to lie to you. I thought
I
he
thought it
buried
was.
it. I
I thought
honestly
it
thought
was
he
in
buried
too.
a triple team
Yeah.
3 with 2 seconds left on the clock.
Legacy moment.
And it rattles in and out. And Derek White, who I told my dad, I'm like, Derek White is inbounding this ball. Because he asked who do I think the play is going to go to. I'm like, well, you got to draw it up for Tatum. The play is for Tatum or Brown. If you have a play that can get both of them open, you run that play now. Like, now's the time to run that play. But the play was for Tatum coming up for the top of the key 3. And then Brown off the secondary action just couldn't get open. But I told him Derek White was going to be the inbounder. I did not tell him, however, that Derek White was going to run from the inbound position to the left corner for a kickback pass for a 3, and then run directly in for an offensive rebound tip-in. Not call that.
No, you didn't?
No, that
Oh,
was like 157th on my list of things that would happen.
bet you LeBron called it. Get a feeling.
But Avery, can you break down like what it is with Boston and blowing leads that so far is just hand in hand right now? Like, is it them slowing down the pace? Like, because I don't understand.
I think I had a great analysis of it in the previous videos where it's just one moment looked like the dream team. I mean, insane runs. The other moment, they're all headed to Shanghai. Brick, brick, brick. Fast break, brick.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I have
Like,
no idea. The inconsistency is wild, which is why I still have Miami in contention for Game 7. I just don't trust Boston enough still.
yeah, and I don't blame you. Like, literally said it 2 minutes ago. Miami's going to be the team to blow a 3-0 and win Game 7. Like, they're going to be the team to do that. I, I I still fear Jimmy Butler. He's really struggled with the height, throwing Robert Williams on him. Derek White has gotten better on him as the series has progressed. We're giving him more help off the ball with Al Horford because Bam is clearly not an offensive threat so far in this series unless it's a pick and roll lob or a 6-foot jump hook. So anything in the mid range, Bam can have, and Missoula's letting him have it. I think Joe Mazzulla has progressed phenomenally throughout this series. Like,
Yeah.
you couldn't go from a lower point to a higher point than Joe Mazzulla has in this series. It's unbelievable.
On the chopping block to 3-3. Going to
From
Game
the
7.
end of Game 3, and when I started to feel good about him was towards the end of game 5, I would say, maybe right after game 5, going into game 6, I felt really good about what we were doing and that we had found something, which was just put a ton of height on Jimmy, force Bam to be the one, and then Miami's offense just implodes after that. Like, outside of these absolute no-name dudes that are averaging 20 a game for them, it's unbelievable. Like, they would have zero offense if it wasn't
No,
for Gabe Vincent scoring almost 20 a game and Caleb Martin looking better than Jaylen Brown. Like,
no.
he's
Uh,
literally averaging 19 and 10 on good
it's a
shooting. He's
it's out
shooting
of left field.
60%.
Tyler Hero hurt as well. I mean,
Mhm.
it's as the media says. They say they're running on tomfoolery and the power of friendship to take down the Celtics team.
It's unbelievable. And like Duncan Robinson's coming in just spraying threes, which like that's what he
Look,
does.
but not even just
But
threes. I've seen Duncan do more in his life, I mean, in the game than ever.
mhm.
I've never
Yeah,
seen him
like
hit a finger roll in traffic.
yeah, he's like we're pressing him off the Boston's pressing him off the 3-point line. He's actually making the right reads.
He
He's
had like
becoming
9
a
assists one game.
playmaker. Yeah,
What's
I think
going
he had
on?
9 assists in game 5. Like Boston was just running him off the 3. He's like, "Okay, I'll dump it down to Bam for a layup." It's like, when did this happen?
Yeah, where did this come from? Yeah, I don't get it. Miami is such an anomaly. And then Gabe
It's
Vincent might not play Game 7. He's injured, right? Is he playing Game 7?
He played game 6. He started game
He
6.
played. He started Game 6. Okay.
I would assume he's playing game 7.
Yeah, I don't know.
Um, but game 7 is going to be unbelievable. Like, just from the way game 6 ended, and going back to like the Boston lead thing, I think the reason 10-point leads for Boston with 5 minutes left feel like a tie game is Boston plays with pace the whole game. I don't know if you noticed this, they're like Gonzaga. Instant inbound, push, push, kick all the way up the floor. Like even on inbounds, like every time it's an inbound, unless it's an inbound to Tatum, they walk the ball up the floor. If Tatum gets the inbound and they set up an offense. But if it's Smart or if it's Brogdon, who might not play game 7, we'll see what happens there. Or if it's White, they are and Jalen and Tatum are just streaking down the court, and it's just past to Smart, past to Brown, we're already past half court. And then in the last 5 minutes, it's like we're gonna walk the ball up every possession, and then there's absolutely no flow to your offense. Like it just kills all momentum. Like I had to play that
Yeah.
way in rec league because we were all out of shape, and it still was like, good God, like our offense just can't find any rhythm whatsoever. We couldn't score 2 baskets in a row. Like I don't think the looks they are getting are a problem. It's just it takes all your players out of the flow of the game, so then they can't make shots. Like Tatum missed 2 wide open threes. He missed a layup. Brown missed a tough shot. Derek White missed a wide open 3. Marcus Smart missed a wide open 3. Grant Williams missed a wide open 3. And it's like, "Oh, crap. All of a sudden, it's a tie game because we haven't scored on our last 9 possessions, even though they're all good looks." I believe Al Horford also missed a jump hook in there somewhere. So, like, it's like it's the looks isn't the problem. They're doing great on that term. To beat that zone that Spoelstra went to the last 5 minutes of the game, you have to be able to shoot the ball. That's rule number one of beating the zone. If you shoot well, they get out of it instantly. And Spoelstra likes to mix and match, but the last 5 minutes, Spoelstra went to the zone heavily of game 6. They were in it a ton. And you have to be able to shoot the ball to get out of it. Horford passed up on 2 wide open 12-footers. Like wide open 12-footers. I was so near him. And it's just like if they can get Tatum into the high post, get some playmakers in there and some shooters, I feel like they've handled the zone okay. It's just like at first impact, it's like, oh, like they're in the zone now. And it takes like 2 possessions for them to adjust.
Yeah.
And then they start getting good looks out of it. But it almost seems like an instant 4-0, 6-0 run for Miami every time they go zone.
Yeah, I think Game 7, it's going to be interesting. Jimmy's got to show up. Bam's got to show up. And I can't see Boston shooting 7 for 35 from 3 again. So
I
Jimmy
don't
and
see
Bam
Jimmy
really got to
shooting 4
step it
for
up.
21 again, though.
That's true.
Or 5 for 21 or whatever he was shooting. I don't see that happening again. And I could see Jimmy scoring 25 and them losing. I'm very nervous. As a fan, I'm so nervous. I was a train wreck after the end of Game 6.
Oh,
An absolute train wreck. So the Celtics team is taking years off of my life. If they win a title, it's worth it. But I might have like 4 chronic heart conditions after the time this series is over.
we might have to watch another 7 games after that, too.
Oh, good Lord. Especially against Jokic, he'll be hitting like some 34-foot fadeaways off the wrong foot and banking them in, and we'll get to that later when we talk about the Denver series. But yeah, so prediction for Game 7? What do you got?
I got Miami in a close one. I think it's going to be
Okay.
low
I
scoring.
figured you were going to stick with your
Yeah, I'm
original
going to stick
pick.
with my Miami pick. I got a close game, though. I can't see a blowout on either side. I think just defensively, they'll be able to pull it through. Jimmy will show up. If Bam was playing great earlier in the playoffs. If he has another game like that where he facilitates, I can see Miami taking this Game 7.
Yeah. I'm sticking with my pick. I'm taking Boston in Game 7. I believe Logan also had Miami winning in 7, so I'm sure he would stick with his original pick of Miami winning in Boston. It's weird, like we've had 2 massive swings of Miami being up 3-0 and now Boston tying the series. And I don't know if I've learned anything about either of these teams except for the fact that they're the most inconsistent teams I've watched in my entire life. But I think what Boston has done really well, they're killing Miami on the glass. If they make double-digit threes, they have a really good chance at winning. Like, if they make upwards of 13 threes, I like Boston's chances, just because they take so many of them. And I think the pickup point has been huge. They've slowed, like Jimmy Butler, he loves to play patiently, and Boston has made his looks really tough on him, like incredibly tough. Williams has stayed patient on defense. He's been great. Horford on the switches has been great. Grant Williams has been great. And when I talk about Williams, I meant Rob there.
Yeah, Robert.
He's been fantastic. I love watching that guy play.
No one
He's a
wanted to go in the
defensive
paint.
menace. No.
Yeah,
No
no
one
one.
wants to see him. No one wants to see Horford. I love what they're doing with Jimmy on the switches, and Derek White has stepped up his defensive game a ton. You could argue he's been the second best player for Boston this series. And clearly the most important after what he did in Game 6. So I'm riding with Boston for those reasons, but wouldn't be shocked if Miami wins Game 7. Wouldn't be shocked if we see deja vu and Jimmy Butler shoots a pull-up 3 with 20 some odd seconds left. Down 1. You know what I mean? And he buries it from the same spot. Like, remember like the Durant thing that happened in the NBA Finals where he gamed Game 3 the first time against Cleveland when he was on the Warriors, Game 3, and then the next year he hits it from the same spot in Game 3 to win Game 3 again.
Yep.
On the pull-up 3.
Yep.
From the same left wing spot. I can see it now. Jimmy Butler shooting that same damn pull-up 3 on the right wing. It's probably a shot he's practiced 10,000 times over the summer. He's had the replay running 1,000 times in his head, and him just burying that pull. I can see it now.
It's gonna be
Going
crazy.
Boston. The game is gonna be nuts. The crowd is gonna be insane. I'm so freaking nervous. I'm so
Oh, it's so
nervous.
tough to watch.
Um, yeah, I think we covered everything. Boston, Miami.
Yeah.
Anything else to add?
Let's just see. Yeah, nothing
Yeah,
really.
I really think Game 7 comes down to who makes shots, of course, who can find the flow of their offense better, and just sheer defensive intensity and will. And maybe Spoelstra makes one or two adjustments that Missoula, that he's been saving for a long time. He better fricking use them now. It's Game 7, so
Yep. Pull all the
we'll
tricks
see
out
what
the
he
bag.
does. Yep, everything's on the table. So that is tomorrow or today in 16 hours. So 5:30 tip off on TNT. Go watch that. We're gonna do an NBA Finals preview. So I guess whoever wins, you'll get to see our take on on Game 7 for the NBA Finals preview. We're gonna skip over the Western Conference now. Denver, LA. Denver massacres LA in the series. Something that I expected Denver to win. I had the Nuggets in 6. I believe we all had the Nuggets in 6, if I remember correctly.
Yep.
Um, but Jesus, I was not expecting this. Like,
Either was I. I thought the Lakers would at least pull out one. I mean, Jamal
especially
Murray.
when LeBron has 31 in the first half of Game 4, it's like, oh,
Yeah.
the Lakers are gonna get one finally.
Yeah.
Like, they're not gonna win Game
It looked
5, but they're at least gonna get this one at home. And then, the Nuggets go on a casual 39-19 run in the third quarter, and the game is just wide open again. But
Yeah,
it's
I
all
think
good.
Murray was huge. I mean, it looked like a resurgence of Bubble Murray. They focused everything on Jokic, and if you can have a guy who can just hit shots like Murray can when he's on, it was just the
Yeah.
difference in the series. And Michael, the possession ends here, Porter Jr. Career high 6 assists, absolute madman, facilitating. Really showed up for him. I got a
3-point
crazy
facilitating shot creator build.
yeah. I got a crazy statistic I got to show you that I found on
Fire.
yeah. And let me get it here real quick. All right. Jalen Green has been in the league 2 seasons. He has assisted on 457 baskets in his career. MPJ has been in the league for 4 seasons. He's assisted on 198 shots in his career. He
That's
does.
awesome.
Oh, he doesn't give it up.
Also, like, I love at the end of Game 4 when Jokic hits that unbelievable three with like 90 seconds left off the Sombor shuffle from 30 feet out over Anthony Davis. If you rewatch the play is actually a dribble handoff for Michael Porter Jr. and he's sitting there just calling. He's coming around. He's getting ready, and Jokic is like, "Screw that! I'll just shoot this one-legged off the wrong leg fadeaway over the best defensive player in the playoffs so far, and just drain it right in your eye to ice the series." This
I
was
don't even
awesome.
I don't even know what's going through AD's mind at that point.
Confusion.
Yeah.
I mean, I haven't been in spots like anything like that, but like when dudes are hitting tough shots on you, you're just like, I don't know how I could have defended that any better. AD couldn't have defended that any better.
I mean, but the thing is, I mean, his summer social shuffle, that 35th, I mean, literally it was going to be shacked in a fool. It's just
Yeah.
wet.
Yeah, it was all net. He hit like 5 of those this series. He was unbelievable. So, for Jokic, quick question. Is he the best player in basketball right now? Like, whether they win or lose the finals, going into next season, when we do our top 10 episode, was looking you like looking to the future a little bit. Would you consider putting Jokic at 1, and would you put Jokic at 1 if the answer to the first question is yes?
I would consider putting Jokic at 1. I think it's just Jokic and Giannis right now for that one spot if I had to choose.
So you still have Giannis up there after these playoffs.
It's like 1A, 1B for me, but 2 MVPs in the last 3 years, and if he ends up getting a ring here with the Finals MVP, I could not put Jokic at number 1.
Yeah.
Showing that the stats aren't meaningless, and he can't stat pad in the playoffs.
It's insane. Like, the stats are so natural and they look so easy for him. And they all come within the flow of the offense. It's not like he's sitting there like shooting 30 shots to get his 40 ball, or he's not in any offense. He just sits in the paint, camps rebounds, or he stands out on the 3-point line and just tries to make passes. No, it's none of that. All of it is natural in the flow of the offense. It's Jokic has blown my mind this playoffs. I never thought basketball could be played this way through a center, where he's your main playmaker. Like, you saw some of with like you can go way back in history when like Wilt led the league in assists because he wanted to that year, or like the 85-86 Celtics with Bill Walton coming to that team and all the passing, or Shaq on the 0-1 Lakers, running the offense through Shaq. But I never thought an offense could be run through a center in this style or this fashion ever before. It's I don't even know if it's revolutionary because I don't think we'll ever see another center like Jokic
I was about to say, I don't think we're ever
in
going to
our
see.
lifetimes.
I don't think we're ever going to see that facilitating ability from a center ever again.
No, like he's putting the Jokic Embiid conversations just to bed. Like, for me, this is almost like the Kelsey Kittle debates when we get into the NFL. Like, Kelsey is clearly the better player, but once Kittle has like 2 breakout weeks, everyone's like, "Oh, Kittle better than Kelsey," or whatever. Stupid arguments, but maybe I'm sure that'll happen in the regular season next year. Embiid will average like 48 over the course of 2 weeks in the regular season, and people will be pushing the Embiid Jokic playoffs, trying to forget what happened in the playoffs this year in the comparisons. And I've never seen anyone make 30, 15, and 12 look so easy. It's remarkable.
I mean, no one peeked an eye at his 53-11 game.
No.
No one just thought, hey,
because they
Jokic
lost.
dropped 53 and 11 in a playoff game. Maybe we should check that out. No, it's just an average night for him.
He only had 6 boards that game, Avery, and they lost. So he doesn't get any credit for 53 and 11.
No.
Sorry to tell you, but I think he is the clear, by far and away, best player in the world right now. When you look at Denver's offense, his usage rate is probably like fairly high, but like it doesn't seem that way. Because like he's touching the ball every possession, but he's not moving a lot. He just like plants himself on the high post. And now he's like, all right, I got 3 reads to make. It's, am I going to shoot this? Am I going to drive this? Like it's literally really simple basketball. It's the triple threat position. Like,
yep. And he does it so well.
And they just have the perfect pieces around him with Porter, like you said. They need that 6'10" scoring ability. Murray, who plays the pick and roll so well with Jokic, and then you have Gordon in that dunker spot who treats defensively so heavy. And then of course KCP, who was awesome in this Lakers series with his ability to play 3 and D at 6'5", and I think Denver's clearly the best team in the playoffs. I don't really care. Like, I can give my finals preview now. Like, no breakdown, just my prediction. Like, I think the Nuggets beat whoever comes out of the East in at least 6 games.
I agree. It's hard to imagine either of these teams, especially with their inconsistencies, coming in and just beating the Nuggets, who just look
Like
like a well-oiled machine right now.
they match up so well. Like, because like say they get Boston, Gordon can guard Tatum, KCP can guard Brown, and then it's Jokic on whoever else. Like they'll probably win that series in 6. And
Yeah,
then if you get Miami, I think it's in less games
I agree.
because I think Jokic averages 40 against Miami in the last 2 years. So Miami clearly can't guard him, and they have the second or third best defensive center in the league with Bam. Like offense is it's so smooth. It's so much fun to watch. It gives me like the KD Warriors kind of vibe. Like it's literally almost unguardable. It's almost unguardable. And the games that they lose, it's because they got outscored. It's not because they didn't play bad offense. It's just because they're like the Suns games. You look at those games, it's just because Katie and Booker had 85 combined in the game. It's like, oh, they lost 127 to 123. Like, it's not like their offense was bad. It's just like, oh, we got outscored one game, on to the next, and then they'll score 130 again. Like,
Yeah, whoever it is, they're just gonna have to outshoot the Nuggets. That's the only way teams have been able to beat them, really.
and it's almost impossible to outshoot Denver because they get good looks every single time down the floor because of Nikola Jokic. Like, he's impossible to guard. Impossible. And you look at him, he's like, oh, he's physically not that impressive.
Yeah, he doesn't have the athleticism, but one thing I noticed is, I mean, every time it's not just he makes the open pass, he makes the right swing pass. Every time he makes the perfect pass, he
Hmm.
knows exactly where to go without even looking. Like he's
Yeah,
got
and where it
it
should
to a T.
be.
Yeah,
Like his pocket, I remember like the Phoenix series, especially so vividly. Like I believe it was game 3. Every pocket bounce pass was on the money for a layup. Like DeAndre Ayton might as well not have even been there. Like he was just dump off, dump off, dump off, and it was just layup, layup, layup. Like it looked so easy. So like Denver's shot quality is higher than any like I would probably argue any team better than any team since the KD Warriors. Just because when you have KD and Steph, you're gonna get good shots. And Clay, of course, in that Steve Kerr offense. But I would say this team is right there as far as I just think like how impressive they are offensively, especially when Jamal Murray plays this way. The only way they lose the finals is if Gordon, Porter, and Murray don't like suck for 4 out of the 7 games, like are straight
sure.
up brutally terrible. That's the only way they lose the series. But they're like 8 deep. They have rotation guys that can come in. It's like, okay, KCP sucks this game. Bruce Brown can come in and score 18 on any given night while contributing great defense. Like they're deep, they're well coached, they have experience, and they have the best player in the world right now. That's a formula for success.
Yeah, it feels like this Lakers Nuggets series was so long ago. Just quick,
I know.
dry, boring.
Maybe, especially as a Celtics fan, it feels like this Miami series has just been forever. Like, I stress about the games even on the days that they don't play. So it's just like this series is, yeah, like I said, taking time off my life. And then Denver, LA was like, oh, like it's over already.
All right. Yeah.
But I want to do LA too. We didn't talk anything about LA. Um,
Big
another
off
quick
season for him.
question. Huge off season, right? I believe Vanderbilt's a free agent. I believe
Russell.
D'Lo's a free agent. Reeves is a restricted free agent, and a team is most definitely probably going to offer 4 years, 96 million, which is his max. And with the new CBA rules, which we'll be talking about at the very end of this pod, the cap restrictions on paying these guys like Austin Reeves is gonna hit big time when you have two star players. So star players are gonna have to start taking some pay cuts, or these mid-level players are gonna have to start taking like some minimums, damn near. Um, there's gonna be a lot of adjusting. Maybe teams just bite the bullet, but we'll get into that later. Um, Huge offseason for LA though. They got five like big time players, big time pieces that they acquired on the chopping block. What do you think is the move for LA going forward after getting swept by Denver?
Well, D'Lo completely disappeared this playoff series. I haven't seen anything that bad since Schroeder's contract season. So, I think here, I think LA needs another piece. I think they got to shop around. They got to look for someone like Damian Lillard, Kyrie. They got to look for another piece like that. Or you recoup, you bring back your guys. LeBron did shoot really bad from three. He didn't have his best series, but he was playing on a torn something in his foot, I believe.
Yeah,
In
it
surgery
was.
on.
Yeah, he's getting surgery on it.
I think with LeBron's limited time, you need to shoot and you need to try and find something, if possible, to try and put you over that edge. Because now you look at the Nuggets, you just got creamed, buddy. You got to come back, recoup, and you're looking to beat them.
Yeah. Um, yeah, there's a couple different. I agree with the two ways this can go. Hachimura is also a free agent, which is massive because he was phenomenal in
He's going to
those
be
games
asking
for
for
them.
some money.
Him and Reeves are going to be pushing $20 to $25 million a year apiece. So it's either approach. I believe Kyrie is a free agent, so it's going to be approach Portland and offer Reeves Rui a first from like 2049 and like Malik Beasley for Damian and bring in Lillard and just cash in on everything and say our bench is going to suck because of the new CBA. Our bench is going to be atrocious because Dame Lillard's going to be making $55 million this year. And then on top of LeBron's 40, on top of AD's 40, I believe the cap is 190 million. So then you have to build a six-man roster with like $55 million. It's almost impossible to do in today's NBA. You're going to be running scrubs out there, quote unquote scrubs in terms of the NBA. So it's that, or it's we managed to bring back Reeves, we managed to bring back Rui somehow, and you kind of just run it back. They're in a very tough spot because I really think they have 1 year left because Bronny's going to be coming into the NBA in a year. They have 1 year left and LeBron's out of there to whatever team drafts Bronny, in my opinion. I think that's what he wants to happen. So they have a lot of future long-term stuff to think about because after LeBron, I think you can win a title with AD as your number one piece. I really do. I really do. Like the inconsistency offensively can be fixed, and he's the best defensive player in the league when he feels like it. So, and he showed that in the playoffs this year. I really think you can win a title with AD being your one. Do you disagree or do you agree?
I agree. I think the offensive
You agree?
consistency can be changed. I mean, he kind of he holds back the throttle a bit for LeBron. Sometimes he kind of
Hmm.
lets him take the show. Yeah, I
Exactly.
think he can, but I think he just needs a lot of pieces around him. I think he
And
needs
you have
another.
to have shooters.
Yeah, he's got to have shooters, of course, but I think he needs like just a really good second scoring option.
Hmm. So it's they're going to be in rebuild around AD mode in a year if they don't win the title this year, this upcoming year. I think because LeBron will be out of there if they don't win the title. If they win the title, now LeBron might stay, might wait another year. Maybe he'll play year 24 with Bronny or something. Who knows? But they're going to be in rebuild mode. So there's the two options for them. Two things. for me from this series outside of the Denver takeaways. LeBron was horrific from three, and his 3-point, he literally shot his team out of a couple of these games. Game one, the three that he took at the end of game one, which is now forgotten about in history for some reason. There's so many better plays that I know LeBron can make in those situations. Him shooting 26% from three and not making a three till game four, but relentlessly taking them, ruined like some of these runs that the Lakers were making. Just put screeching halts to any potential offense that the Lakers had. And you got to be able to shoot better. I think he shot 32% from three in the regular season. I think he shot like 26% from three in the playoffs. That's abysmal. You got to be shooting better than that. Otherwise, he's really just like a massive playmaking point. He's going to have to go to like the Magic Johnson thing, where it's like, I score out of the low post only. And now I'm a playmaker that can handle the rock still and just use my pure size to beat people. He's going to have to go to that and maybe be like a 20-12 guy over being a 28-8 guy, if that makes sense. Oh, uh-oh. We're losing him. But that's just like my whole thing with LeBron. You back? You back? You good?
Hold on, I don't think I can hear you.
Uh-oh.
No way.
Can you hear me? Can you
All
hear
right,
me?
we're gonna have the mute podcast. I'll just guess what take you're on right now. What the heck?
Can you hear me? Uh-oh. Technical difficulties, guys. Let's see what I can do. Can you hear me now?
I still can't hear you. All I know is AD, he's old. He's getting older. He's made out of glass. He plays himself in 2K and he gets injured. I mean, there's a chance Lakers, I mean, if AD keeps getting injured, you look to shop AD after 2 years here. Bron has the idea of leaving. He wants to go with Bronny. Maybe you shop. You just rebuild. Throw it in the trash and rerun it again.
Yeah, that's definitely true. I can hear you.
I can't believe it popped on mute.
We could try this. We might have to do this. So here's where we'll go from here. This is sorry for the bump in the road, guys. We're gonna finish up our stuff on LeBron real quick.
This makes the podcast a little interesting.
Yeah, no kidding.
Well,
we'll have Avery log out and log back in. And we'll go from there, and I'll go solo for a little bit. But yeah, just my thing with LeBron on the 3-point shooting, like just his inefficiency. Yeah, killed runs, killed things like that. He's still a fantastic. I'm not dumping on LeBron or anything. I just think his 3-point shooting was in clutch situations when they didn't need it, when they could have got so many better looks. And yes, clearly the minutes were wearing on him. Clearly he was tired, but those are the times you got to get to the hole and get to the line. And LeBron not being a great free throw shooter, those are maybe not some of the chances that you want to take. But I still think LeBron can be a 25-12 guy. I still think he can be a certified 2 on your roster. It may be even your number 1 option. I do think AD is the number 1 though. Speaking of AD, can you hear me?
Yep, we're back.
Atta babe. Okay.
Only pay a little bit of money to get crappy internet at this college. Only a little bit.
So, one more question before we leave Denver, LA. Is LeBron a superstar still to you? Like top 7, top 10.
Top 10,
Is he
yes.
still in your top 10?
I think this playoff series really makes it seem like he's aged a lot. I'd like to see what he looks like with that surgery there, but I without a doubt put him top 15. I might put him top 10. He's falling out of that superstar range, that top superstar range. There's no way he's in the top 5 players anymore.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, but I think he's still in that near that superstar range or in it just by a bit.
Yeah, completely agree. Like running through the list in my head, I would probably say around 9 or 10. But he had the quote where he's like, "If I'm still better than 95% of the league, then I should still be playing," which I totally agree with. 95%, I believe, means you're a top 25 player or a top 45 player or something like that.
Yeah, he's without a doubt.
So, yeah, like, of course he is. So I think that's definitely no brainer. It's just, is he still, I don't know if he can still be your one, like your number one guy
He is
on a
pretty
championship team,
old.
which is so tough to do at 38, 39 years old. Because I do think AD is better than him right now.
Right now, yeah, without a doubt. Without a doubt. He's more of a
So
second option. I can't see him winning a ring being a first option with no one like AD and not being with
yeah,
that.
he can be an elite second option for any team. Like his ability to play make still, get to the hole, the veteran leadership, and sheer playoff experience, all of those things come in to having LBJ on your roster. He's a phenomenal 2. He's a borderline 1. I just don't know if I could say, hey, he can still be my number 1 dude, play 44 minutes a game in playoffs and still get me my 30 and 12 and 12, like 30 and 12 and 8. You know what I mean? And while being the primary ball handler, while having to guard the second best player on the opposing team, that's a lot to do at the age of 38, 39. We're not crapping on LeBron here. It's just that stuff that comes with age.
Yeah.
So I think AD was pretty clearly the best player for the Lakers in the playoffs. And LeBron's still a top 15 player. There's no doubt about that. He's borderline 10. So, which is something we've never said about anyone else except for maybe Kareem, is that they're top 10 in the NBA at the age of 128 years old. So, all these Bron fans might come in here being pissed off, but
Oh yeah,
we're not crapping on LeBron. So, speaking of team construction, like we talked about the Lakers, you were talking about shipping out AD. That could also be an option for LA. But we're going to talk CBA to top this thing off. The Players Association, the owners have all, and the NBA as a whole have all come to an agreement, which I believe is every 2 years, with a new CBA. And this whole thing is all about the second apron. Now, I'm going to break down what that is. I explained it to Avery a touch before we got on, but we're going to do the big breakdown now. I'm going to try to make it not sound like a bunch of freaking math. So here's the very simple way to put it. You have a hard cap, or your normal cap at like 130, 140 million dollars. You have your luxury tax at 165 million. Well, that's where owners have to start paying luxury tax on all their players. Now that what they're implementing with this new CBA is now there's what they're calling aprons. There's a first apron and there is a second apron of the luxury tax. The first apron is $175 million. There's no penalties that come with the first apron. The second apron, though, the CBA stabs you in the back and then turns around and stabs you in the front. It's ruthless. So the luxury is at 165. The second apron, I believe, is 175. Or the first apron's 175. The second apron is $190 million. What does this mean as far as restrictions go? If your team is over $190 million in payroll, 3 or 4 things happen. Your team gets no mid-level exception, which means teams like Golden State this year would not have been able to bring in Dante DiVincenzo to their roster on the mid-level. Teams like Dallas, they wouldn't have been able to bring in JaVale McGee. Things of that nature. No buyout market. For example, the Clippers would not have been able to bring in Russell Westbrook to their playoff team this year. You don't get any options to have any of those buyouts. Or another example, Miami would not have Kevin Love right now with the second apron. And then for trades, you can't trade away cash for players, and you can't trade away picks 6 years into the future. So the Clippers couldn't do the Paul George trade, for example, for the Shea Paul George trade, where they traded picks into 2029, I believe, and that was in 2020, 2021.
Yeah, 2020, I think.
Or 2019, actually. And they traded picks in like 2027. So you can't do that. So there's two perspectives to take away from this. One is the players. What does this mean for the players? It means the stars are going to get their money no matter what. It means the minimum guys are going to get their minimums no matter what. What happens to what I like to call the quote-unquote six men? What happens to the Malcolm Brogdons of the world? What happens to the Emmanuel Quickleys of the world? The RJ Barretts, where it's like they're not good enough to give them the max, but they're going to want $25, $30 million a year. And if you already have two max guys, there's no room for it. Because if you go over that second apron, like we said, you basically can't do anything during the regular season as far as trades, buyouts, mid-levels. You get zero. You get hit hard. So let's look at a team like Boston, right? With the contracts, Jaylen Brown is in line for 2 years, or not 2 years, I believe 6 years, $295 million. So it's $49 million a year. And Tatum is in line for 6 years, $315. Or maybe it was 360. Maybe that's what the number was. I think it's actually 360. So Boston is looking at paying Jaylen and Jason $110 million a year for two guys. With how their contracts are structured. If Brown and Tatum make all NBA teams, they're allowed to sign the Supermax, is what basically it is, and only Boston can offer that to them. But we're looking at $110 million a year for two guys. That means the other 7 guys in your rotation that you're going to play on a consistent basis, if you don't want to break that second apron, has to be under $80 million for 7 dudes. And in today's NBA, like, I'm trying to think of an example of like a horrific bench contract, but like I'm pretty sure we signed Danilo Gallinari, Boston did, for like 1 year, $13 million.
He got his money. He got his money on multiple contracts.
So if you want to try and like have a complete roster, having 2 superstars is now like, it's detrimental to have a championship level team, but teams are really gonna have to think about biting the bullet with this second apron thing.
Unless you pull a Miami Heat and just find the jackpot in every undrafted player you get. But other than that, there's really nothing else.
Like Miami, though. Miami's still in like the top 6 of payroll.
Yeah.
Because they're paying Jimmy up near 40. I think it's actually up near 50. Kyle Lowry, Robinson, Hero, Bam. Those are 5 dudes all over $20 million a year. Right? And with Jimmy and Bam, you're up, I think they're at 165 right now. And Caleb Martin's a free agent. Gabe Vincent is a free agent coming in next year. They're probably going to be asking for $10, $15 million a year with how their playoffs have gone. So teams are screwed. These really good teams, like the Knicks, should be throwing a championship parade right now for getting Jalen Brunson on that deal.
Steal.
Massive steal. So, yeah. I don't know. What do you think is going to happen with like the mid-level guys, like the RJ Barretts, the Malcolm Brogdons? What do you think happens to those dudes? Do you think they stay at the $25 million range, or is it like max or bust kind of deal with them.
I could see them making a lot of money in Washington. An absurd amount of money in Washington.
Why Washington?
How much is Kyle Kuzma making again?
13. He has a player option for $13 million this year, which he'll probably turn down to try and get 30 somewhere else.
Why? Washington just likes giving bad contracts. I could see them picking up.
Bradley Beal's getting $52 million, if that's what you're asking.
Yeah. Yeah,
Porzingis also has a player option.
Oh yeah,
for
Porzingis.
37. Yeah. He has a player option for $37 million this year. It's like that's the other thing too, where it's like looking at Washington. If you're the way to do it is you build around 2-star players, right? Sometimes 3 if you can get a hold of them. Well, now 3 is completely out of the question.
Yeah.
It's like all this Lakers getting Damian Lillard BS that I'm hearing, not happening, especially now. All the Lakers getting Kyrie Irving, not happening unless they want to just pay a bajillion dollars this year to try and go win a title. Golden State's on the repeater tax. Their payroll's at like $220 million with the upcoming pool, actually 240, something like that.
It's absurd.
So they're paying a quarter of a billion for this team next year if they keep Jordan Poole. And they have all these they're going to get hit with all these restrictions coming into next year. So they're going to really have to move some contracts. Draymond's going to have to come back for damn near nothing. Clay's going to have to come back for not $41 million a year. I can assure you that. And Poole's probably going to have to get traded along with Kuminga or Moody in that package. That they're going to have to make a crap ton of moves to get under this $190 million mark.
Yeah,
what we said with. Go ahead.
These mid-level guys are going to become some of the most important pieces to these teams. When it comes to contract-wise, I'm just trying to find
the Celtics. Derek White's the third best player right now. You know what I mean? Look at the Heat. Gabe Vincent, Caleb Martin, all these guys we've been talking about this whole time. You look at the Nuggets, KCP, Aaron Gordon, right? It's all Bruce Brown who came in on the mid-level. These guys are invaluable pieces to these teams to where, for example, Dallas, they brought in JaVale McGee on a buyout, I believe. It wasn't the exception, it's the buyout, which changes their cap level, which means they couldn't trade. If they tried to do the Kyrie Irving trade over again, it would be illegal because they'd go over the $190 million with the trade. So you can't do it, right? So it restricts a ton. Like we said with the 2-star thing, you build your team around 2 stars is the clear path to success. If you're Washington, do you really want to lock in $110 million to Bradley Beal and Kristaps Porzingis as your big 2?
Oh,
to me personally, that doesn't sound like a great plan. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And teams that have now, Sam Presti's getting just rammed in the back right now by this contract because Shai's going to be getting big money. I believe he got an extension, but he's going to be due for another one in terms of the CBA. Giddey's going to be getting big money. Chet, if he lives up to expectations, needs big money. Jalen Williams could low-key be like a borderline max guy if he develops the way he developed this year. It could be – they could have 4 max guys, potentially.
Yeah, I don't know what we're going to do there.
How is that going to work?
At least we get to fall back on 19 first-round draft picks.
Exactly.
That eases the pain a little bit, but
then you can't really build a championship level roster because now OKC just has all these sitting assets that they can't cash in on because now they can't even pay their own guys.
No, yeah.
So it's going to be very, very interesting to see what happens. Maybe not this offseason. I could see teams biting the bullet like Boston has Grant Williams as a free agent this year. I'm assuming he's going to want somewhere in the range of 15 to 20 million, even though he's played half the playoff games so far. But that's what the asking price is for those guys. And maybe Boston just bites the bullet and teams start testing the waters as the second apron thing goes on. Like, do you think if you're the Suns, if you're the owner, Matt Ishbia, you just bought the team, do you still make the trade for KD knowing that this is in place?
No.
Because next year, you're paying Booker 50.05 and Durant 47. And Ayton's on the books for 34.
Ouch. And you got to fill that roster. There's no depth.
That's $130 million for 3 guys. You got 6 dudes there that you can only fill with 60 million. Like, all these scenarios are just like, they probably don't pull the trigger on that. They probably just rock Mikal and maybe find a way to ship Chris Paul. They keep Ayton and they try to patch a championship level team together, but it's really, really tough to work with 2 supermax players right now going into next year and further years where I can only assume the contracts are only going to get bigger. So now does the number also inflate along with these massive contracts? Like, Dame's going to be getting $65 million a year at the end of his extension. What the hell is Portland going to do with that?
Be mediocre.
That's a third. That's a third of their cap under the 190 for one dude.
Yeah, I mean, I think the cap has to go up with the salaries as well, or else people are just gonna be out of jobs.
Oh, it's gonna be ridiculous.
Yeah, it's gonna shake things up.
Like, it's gonna look like those 2K simulations where, like, DeAndre Ayton just sits till the last day of free agency and signs for 1 year, $5 million because he couldn't get the max deal that he was looking for. Like, that's literally what it's gonna come down to.
It's gonna be crazy.
It's almost gonna turn into baseball free agency where these dudes just sit and wait and wait and wait until they get the contract that they're looking for. And if a team can't offer it to them, they're out of a job. And then they have to take the minimum. Like, man, it's just it's like vacuum packing all these great teams, all these championship teams. Like Milwaukee, we haven't even talked about Milwaukee. They're going to be paying Giannis $50 million. Chris Middleton has a player option for $40 million this year. And Brook Lopez is a free agent. He's going to be looking for 25. And you still have Drew Holiday on the books. That's $160 million. Where else is the hell of your roster? Like, where's the rest of your roster? You can't be running 4 dudes out there. So
it's gonna be 4v4 league now.
The numbers aren't adding up, which is why we see these middle guys, like these Chris Middletons and these Brook Lopez's, like, the numbers, it's either they're all going to go to the extremes or they're all going to go straight to the middle. Like, the guys that aren't max players, they're going to go down to like 20, and the Grant Williams of the worlds, they're going to stay at the 15 to 20 range. And RJ Barrett might be getting paid the same amount as Grant Williams one day. Who knows?
That'd be wild.
Which is just absurd to think about.
Getting rid of the middle class.
Yeah, it's either everyone's going to be in the middle class or we're getting rid of it permanently. And it's either you're playing for a minimum or you're playing for a max, and there's no in between. It's bonkers. It's bonkers. Just to even think about how I would hate to be a GM right now. Like, I would hate to be Boston. I'd hate to be Milwaukee, Miami, LA,
Golden State.
Both LA teams, Golden State especially. Golden State's going to have to do like 128 Excel spreadsheets on how to get under the $190 cap this year. It's going to be absurd.
They're going to start running 2K simulations.
Yeah. I would hate to be any of those teams, like Portland in a couple years, because now they got Simons and Jeremy Grant's a free agent. So what do you do with him and Nurkic? It's like you got all these slightly above average players that you can't really move for value, but you still got to sign them to $25 million a year. And that's going to suck up all your cap. So lots and just a ton to think about. Maybe we'll dive into that a little bit more on our next pod coming up, because now we're very, very soon we're going to be breaking down one series, the NBA Finals. So we're going to have to find some other content to talk about, which I'm sure we will do very easily. Maybe we'll dive into that a little bit more. I know I talked a lot during that. Do you have anything else to add to that, Avery?
No, I think it's just going to shake up the league. Everyone's middle class, or to get rid of the middle class. I think it's going to be really interesting. These new rules. Get rid of teams like the Warriors abusing that luxury tax.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just accepting to pay the luxury tax every year. Running out Steph, KD, Clay, and Dre and being like, yeah,
No.
we're going to win the title next year.
No.
Because we decided to pay the luxury tax and you didn't. So teams are really going to have to they're going to have to bite the bullet in two different ways, whether it's losing players or owners losing a bunch of cash. So, and all these restrictions during the season, not being able to add players, it's like, maybe you have the core of a championship team, but now you can't use your mid-level, you can't use your buyout.
Yeah.
And it's like those are two key pieces you could add to your team to make your team eight players deep instead of 4. So, yeah, just a ton to think about there. But that's gonna do it for the pod. Tons to break down with Boston, Miami. We'll see what the future holds for both those teams who Denver has to face. If Boston wins, games 1 and 2 will be played in Boston. If Miami wins, games 1 and 2 of the NBA Finals will be played in Denver, Colorado. So we'll see what happens. Game 7 in 14 hours. The countdown is just shooting down I should just have it plastered to my brain right now. It's really all I can think about.
One for
So,
the history books.
good luck to you and Logan tomorrow night by picking Avery, or by picking Miami. Good luck to you too.
Cheering Jimmy on.
And I'm praying for my mental health as Game 7 comes around. So
praying for Jimmy's legacy.
Jimmy's legacy.
Praying for Jimmy's legacy.
Yeah. Tons writing for Game 7 and who Denver's going to face in the NBA Finals, and then looking ahead 1 or 2 years into the future for GMs and players and all the team building. So that's going to do it for this podcast. Links are all in the description for everything that I mentioned at the beginning. Go check out all those things. And that's going to do it. Bailey, Avery, NBA playoffs. Thanks for tuning in, guys. We really appreciate it. Peace.